So the World Cup, Women's World Cup that concluded just a few days back was a massive success on home turf. But not just that, it turns out that it was a success globally as well. It managed to do exactly what it was meant to do, which is reach to new audiences. And as a result, now the ICC has put out numbers not just of the final and the World Cup at large, but also the success of the tournament has resulted in two key developments which I'm about to talk about now. Since I touched about the viewership bit, let me quickly give you some tidbits on that. The success of the tournament was such that the viewership of the final was just as good as that of the men's World Cup final of the T20 edition that had taken place in Barbados last year. So that gives you a lot of perspective. If this was a final taking place in Navi Mumbai or at home, the viewership numbers were just as good as you saw in the men's edition of the T20 World Cup 2024. So that's the big news, and that tells a lot about the popularity of women's cricket, not just in India but in other corners of the world as well. But now let's quickly jump into the two big developments that I have for you. As in my previous live, I had already said that the ICC meeting is on, and we continue to get more and more details from that meeting. Let me give you the two big updates that I have for you now concerning women's cricket. Let's first talk about the fact that the 2029 edition of the World Cup will now have not 8 but 10 teams until now. In fact, from the year 2000, so for the last 25 years, you've had 8 teams participate in the women's World Cup. Now that number has gone up to 10, and naturally, if the number of teams has gone up, then the number of games will also go up. You traditionally saw about 31 matches take place. Now that number will increase to 48 games. What exactly will be the format of the World Cup 2029 edition? That is something, details of which are still awaited, but these are very good indicators if you were to ask me. The fact that the ICC is looking at taking the sport to more associate nations, to more corners, not just the subcontinent, not just the traditional Englands and the Australias and the South Africas of the world. They're taking the sport to new corners. This is what this tells me, and that's exactly the plan. I was just going through that letter that the ICC has sent out, and it says that the idea is to take the sport to more associate nations. In fact, why talk about just 2029? The T20 World Cup, Women's World Cup, that is going to be taking place next year. In that also there is an increment in the number of teams. From 10, that number has gone up to 12. So the sport is getting so much more. There is a wave that we are seeing. Endorsements are up as far as women athletes or members of the women's cricket team are concerned. I was looking at the numbers. Jamie Rodriguez would usually charge somewhere between 25 to 40 lakhs. That number has gone up to a crore now. In fact, ranging up to 1.4 crore as well. For Harmanpreet Kaur, in fact, that number has gone up to 1.5 crore in fact. So that's what the popularity of the sport does. This is what fame does. This is what sport is all about. This is in fact the byproduct of a successful campaign, and it's so heartening to see that women's sport, women cricket, that was for all these years, at least on Indian turf, fighting for its identity. Now it's getting more and more popular, and now the ICC is also seeing merit in taking the sport to an even bigger stage, and which is why these developments that I just told you about. More on that will follow. Of course, you knew what you need to do for that. Do tap that bell so that you know when we come live to you next, or have a new offering for you in the in the form of any VODs and all. There's plenty that we've put out there on our YouTube as well as our Facebook channel. So in case you're joining us right now from our Facebook stream, do go ahead, check out some of the other videos that we've done. For now, I'll be taking your leave. I do have Abhijit who's right there waiting for me to, in fact, get done with my live. It's late as well. We're approaching the midnight mark, and so we'll be shutting shop for now. But see you guys tomorrow. It's been a long day for all of us here. Take very good care, and see you tomorrow as always. Bye bye and good night.